Hi families, I'm Karen from the Hedgehog's Classroom. I would guess that most, if not all of your children have had tantrums, or sometimes we call them challenging behaviors. And tantrums are totally normal because they're your child's way of communicating. And they can happen for a few different reasons. Sometimes it's because a child doesn't have the communication skills to express their needs or their wants. And in those situations, we try to teach them how to communicate. Other times it could be due to sensory issues. But in this video, I want to focus on tantrums that occur because they're being reinforced. And what I mean by reinforced is that either you or somebody else in your child's life is giving your child what they want, either while they're having the tantrum or right after that. For example, have you ever been to the grocery store with your child and he asks you for candy or some other kind of treat and you say no, and then he starts crying and screaming and you're just like, I can't deal with this right now. I'm just going to buy them the candy so I don't have to listen to the tantrum. And if you've done that, you're not alone. We've pretty much all done the same exact thing because it works. You buy them the candy and suddenly the tantrum stops and you get a moment of peace, which we all need. But the problem is that most likely your child is going to engage in that same challenging behavior the next time you go to the grocery store or the next time you guys are at home and he asks you for something and you say no. And that's because what you actually did was teach him that the tantrum was the way to get what he wants. First, you said no when maybe he even asked nicely, and then after he had the tantrum, then you changed your mind. So, like I said before, this pattern continues for many families because both the parent and the child are getting what they want. The parent gets a moment of peace and quiet, and the child gets the candy. But ideally, we want to teach our children more appropriate ways to gain access to what they want. So we really want to work on changing that pattern that's developed. And the pattern that I'm talking about is this, that where tantrum or challenging behavior equals candy, and we want to develop a new pattern. And the first step in developing that pattern is to stop giving them what they want after they have the tantrum. The problem with only doing that is that most likely your child is going to engage in a new challenging behavior. So maybe at first he was crying and screaming, and then after he realizes, oh, I guess this isn't working for me anymore, maybe he'll drop to the floor, start kicking, and then refuse to get up until you agree to buy him the candy. So we also need to teach him more appropriate replacement behaviors that will give him access to what he wants. Unfortunately, in that example that I've been using, we know that the child is motivated for something, the candy. So we can use that to our advantage and let him know that he can still earn the candy, but now the only way to gain access is to have the more appropriate replacement behavior. So now the pattern has changed, and now the replacement behavior equals candy. And what I mean by replacement behavior is going to be different for every family. It's whatever goals you and your child are working on. So if you're working on functional communication skills with them, it could be asking appropriately for the candy. And that could be vocally saying candy or I want candy. It could also be signing or using pecks. Or if you're working on behavioral goals with your child, it could be something like staying seated or using a quiet voice. And one of the ways to encourage your child to use the replacement behavior is to remind them of the behavior that you expect before you enter a situation where you think he might have the tantrum. And that could look something like this. You could say to them, before you go into the grocery store, you can say, we use quiet voice in the grocery store. If you can have a quiet voice, I'll let you pick out one treat. So now our replacement behavior, whatever goals you're working on with your child, is paired with candy. And the challenging behavior is no longer paired with what the child wants. And because of that, what you're most likely going to see is the replacement behavior is going to start going up, and the challenge behavior is going to go down. And this might not happen overnight. It might take a little bit of time. But if you stick with it, this is the direction that your child's behavior is going to go in. And after a while, your child is going to get so used to engaging in the replacement behavior that you're probably not going to need to buy him the candy anymore. It's just going to be part of his repertoire. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks. Bye-bye.